Well, another mea culpa from Facebook, and you guessed it, yes, again, it's about privacy and security. A new Wall Street Journal investigation says Facebook's most popular applications are providing users personal information to advertising and internet tracking companies. So how serious is this? Here now, Mark Rotenberg, executive director of the Electronic Privacy Information Center, which currently has 2 complaints pending with the FTC against Facebook, and Lou Kerner, social media analyst with Wedbush Securities. Good to have both of you with us. Mark, since you've got these complaints pending, why don't you weigh in on this first? One of our producers said, somebody's looking at something that I didn't know they were, because I wouldn't be getting commercials on my Facebook page for someone with super curly hair, because how the heck do they know I have super curly hair?
Well, you always have to be careful what you post on Facebook, no doubt about it. But we still think that Facebook has to honor its privacy commitments. And one of Facebook's privacy commitments was that it would not disclose user information to advertisers. Turns out that, in fact, is what they've been doing. The application developers get the user information, it goes along to advertisers, and Facebook users now have a new privacy problem.
Lou, you know what's interesting? In a conversation I had with Mark Zuckerberg about this, he, I think, intellectually thinks it's okay. He says, well, I mean, his theory would be, well, aren't you glad someone puts up an ad for super curly hair if you have curly hair and you didn't have to bother figuring it out, and all of a sudden you're getting ads about things that you're interested in?
Well, I think you're right. I think that is the way that Mark thinks. But I think, more importantly than that, I think Mark recognizes that the way he thinks isn't the way that all of his members think. And I think that Facebook recognizes that privacy is really important to all of their members. We recently did a survey at Wedbush where we found out that 85% of all of Facebook members thought that this was either somewhat of a concern or a very big concern. And Mark knows this. And Mark is acting, I think they're really trying to give members the tools and really trying to act appropriately. What happened today was a mistake. Facebook didn't knowingly give this. This was a mistake. They've apologized for it, and I think they're taking the appropriate steps to rectify it.
Do you think, though, Mark Rotenberg, that they have the ability to do it? I mean, if they said this was a mistake, this is a pretty big mistake, and there's so much stuff coming out in Facebook every day. Do they have control over the data?
Well, we keep hearing this story over and over again. You know, data gets out, data leaks, someone gets access to data, they apologize, they make some changes. I think it's been going on for a little too long. We may be at a turning point right now in Washington, and that's the point at which some of the policymakers in the Federal Trade Commission say basically the industry really can't police itself. It doesn't work. There are too many incentives to disclose user data and too few incentives to protect user privacy. And I think that's exactly the situation where the Federal Trade Commission, for example, could step in and say, you know, let's make these privacy policies enforceable. Let's have some real security standards. The service is fine, but not enough is being done to protect privacy.
Lou, does the technology exist for them to do this? I mean, if we did get more regulation, if one could even figure out exactly how to regulate it, which I know is a very complicated issue in and of itself, does Facebook or anyone have the ability to enforce it?
Yeah, I think the technology does exist. That said, Facebook is moving really fast to improve the Internet. And I think that they recognize, A, that mistakes are going to be made, but I think they're also trying to push the envelope a little bit, because the truth is that users don't know and members don't know what it is that they want. When they first introduced the news feed, which is really the greatest step forward in social networking, which is really where so much of the value for Facebook comes from, when they first introduced that, there was a tremendous backlash from the users because they thought that it was an invasion of privacy, and over time it's become really a tremendous utility for Facebook users. So I think what Facebook is trying to do is balance the needs for privacy versus the need to push things forward and progress.
Mark, is it possible that maybe they should go about it and say, just assume that every new user wants 100% of everything they put on to be visible only to themselves? So why don't you start from that point instead of from the other point, which is you assume they want everything open and have to deselect?
Yeah. Well, I don't know that they need to go that far. I mean, certainly people have said to me, don't you think the default should be, disclose nothing? And I've said, listen, people have different privacy preferences. We understand that. Some people disclose a lot, some people disclose a little, but everybody is constantly making their own decisions about what information to disclose and who's going to get it. And you see, when Facebook doesn't respect those choices that their users make, wherever they fall on the privacy spectrum, that's a real problem. And that's why I think we're going to have to take the privacy issue more seriously. Now, I agree with the comment about Newsfeed. That was an interesting innovation, and eventually people accepted it. But there have been other innovations, like beacon advertising, for example, which was just a bad idea, and Facebook had to back off. So with all of these changes, some are good, some are not so good.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Mark and Lou.